Amara was rubbing her bald head when she glanced at the clock. "Caleb, we've got an hour before the party. It's time." Caleb's voice echoed from the living room. "Time for the daily shave, you mean?" She found him lounging on the couch, a playful grin spreading across his face as he rubbed his own bald head. "Ladies first," he teased, patting the wooden stool they kept for this exact purpose. Amara smirked and sat down, her bare feet tapping against the cool bathroom tiles. Caleb followed her, gathering the tools of their cherished ritual. The electric clippers, a bowl of warm, lavender-scented lather, the gleaming straight razor, and their softest microfiber towel. He stood behind her, gently running his fingers over her bald scalp. "You've got about a day's worth of rebellion here," he joked, referring to the soft fuzz beneath his touch. "Less talk, more shave," she said, closing her eyes with a contented sigh. The clippers hummed to life, their buzzing sound as familiar as a lullaby. Caleb leaned in close, tilting her head slightly forward with his hand. With deliberate precision, he guided the clippers over her head, starting at the nape of her neck. As the tiny hairs fell away, the skin beneath gleamed smooth and pale under the bathroom light. "Your head's so soft," Caleb murmured as he worked, his fingers following the clippers in a gentle sweep to ensure he hadn't missed a spot. Amara smiled lazily. "I know." When the clippers had done their job, Caleb rinsed her head with warm water before dipping the brush into the lather. He swirled it over her scalp, the lavender-scented foam spreading in silky clouds. The warmth of the lather, combined with his careful strokes, sent a shiver down her spine. "Best part," she whispered. He picked up the straight razor, pausing for a moment to meet her gaze in the mirror. "Trust me, always," she replied. With deliberate, steady strokes, Caleb moved the razor over her scalp, scraping away the last traces of stubble. He paused every so often to wipe the blade clean on a towel and run his fingers over her head to check for any rough patches. When he was finished, he rinsed her scalp again, rubbing it dry with the soft towel before applying a light layer of almond oil. Caleb couldn't resist running both hands over her freshly shaved head, his palms gliding over the velvety smoothness. "Perfect," he said, almost reverently. Amara stood and gestured for him to take the stool. "Your turn." Caleb sat down, smirking. "Try to outdo me. I dare you." Amara rolled her eyes but grinned as she took up the clippers. She started at the sides, angling the blades carefully as she worked her way up. Her fingertips trailed behind the clippers, tracing the smooth path she'd carved. She loved the contrast of textures, the faint resistance of stubble giving way to silky skin beneath. "You've got such a nice head shape," she said, admiring her work. "Flattery will get you everywhere," Caleb quipped, leaning into her touch as she applied the lather. She massaged the foam onto his scalp, taking her time to ensure every inch was coated. Then, she picked up the razor and began to shave, her strokes as careful as his had been. The blade moved smoothly over his skin, leaving it as polished as a river stone. When she finished, she applied the almond oil and gave his head a final, affectionate rub. "There," she said, stepping back to admire him. Smooth as glass, Caleb ran his hands over his scalp, a blissful expression on his face. "I think you've outdone yourself this time." They stood in front of the mirror, side by side, their heads gleaming under the light. Caleb turned to her, brushing his palm over her head again, then leaning in to kiss it. "You're stunning." "So are you," she replied, returning the gesture with a soft rub of his head. Dressed to impress, they walked into the party an hour later, their matching smooth scalps drawing admiration from everyone they passed. Together they shone not just from the light, but from the unmistakable bond they shared.